I want the skin around my neck to be not so.
You think you know these faces. You've watched them light up the big screen, owned the red carpet, built empires off their bone structure alone. But what happens when that structure becomes a victim of the surgeon's blade? Today, we're exposing 15 A-list icons who walked into operating rooms looking like themselves and walked out looking like strangers. The shocking part? Some of them still don't recognize who's staring back.
It's about everybody. We all can like and...
1. Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers didn't just love plastic surgery. She made it her entire personality. The comedy legend underwent approximately 348 cosmetic procedures over her lifetime. And here's the wild part. She'd openly brag about it. But what started as subtle tweaks in the 1970s spiraled into something uncontrollable. By her later years, Rivers had removed her back molars to sharpen her cheekbones. She'd undergone multiple facelifts that created an almost permanent expression of surprise, and had enough filler in her face to qualify as a construction material. Her signature, Crawford mouth, wasn't intentional beauty branding. It was the result of botched dental work and misaligned lip injections that left her mouth asymmetrical. Critics would whisper behind closed doors that she'd become addicted to the procedure itself, chasing the feeling of renewal, even as her face became tighter and less expressive. The saddest part of Rivers' story is that nobody stopped her. Friends watched, doctors kept scheduling appointments, and studios said nothing. She wasn't hiding her surgeries. She was weaponizing them, using her transformation as proof that she refused to age like a normal woman. But in the process, she lost the very thing that made her a star, her ability to move her face and convey genuine emotion.
You were so afraid I'd meet nothing but wolves.
2. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr was genuinely one of the most beautiful women to ever exist. An Austrian actress with hypnotic features, she captivated audiences in films like Algiers and Samson and Delilah. But here's the tragedy. She was also a technological genius who co-invented frequency-hopping spread-spectrum technology that eventually led to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This woman should be remembered as an innovator. Instead, she is remembered for destroying her face. As her acting roles dried up in the 1950s and 1960s, Lamarr became obsessed with maintaining her youthful appearance. She didn't just get a facelift. She got multiple facelifts. She didn't just try fillers. She experimented with wax injections, silicone, and other experimental substances that left her skin looking distorted and unnatural. The procedures began piling up. Breast augmentations with questionable hormone-based injections, chin implants, cheek injections that warped her facial symmetry. By her later years, Lamarr had withdrawn almost entirely from public life. She became a recluse in her Beverly Hills mansion, avoiding cameras and public appearances. Her daughter recalled taking her to dinner and barely recognizing her own mother. Lamarr spent her final decades trapped in a face that looked nothing like her, unable to move forward emotionally because she was too busy trying to rewind physically. She proved that genius plus beauty doesn't equal happiness when you're chasing an impossible standard.
I want the skin around my neck to be...
3. On Janice Dickinson. Janice Dickinson burst onto the modeling scene in the 1970s as one of the first true supermodels. She had attitude, presence, and cheekbones that could cut glass. She was fearless, controversial, and absolutely dominating every runway she walked. But Janice had a fatal flaw. She couldn't handle aging. At just 32 years old, she went under the knife for the first time. A chest lift, tummy tuck, facelift, and Botox injections, all in 1 year. That was just the beginning. Over the next 3 decades, Dickinson became a surgeon's dream client, returning again and again for endless refinements. According to celebrity plastic surgeon Dr. Anthony Yun, Janice had literally every cosmetic procedure available. Additional facelifts, eye lifts, brow lifts, fat injections, more Botox, more fillers. Yun joked that Dickinson probably single-handedly paid for her surgeon's mansion. The problem with getting that many procedures at once is that your face doesn't heal properly. It gets tight, it gets puffy, It starts looking waxy and immobile. Janice went from being stunning to being almost unrecognizable. Paparazzi photos from the 2000s showed a face that looked nothing like the supermodel from the 1970s. Some tabloids even compared her to Caitlyn Jenner, which says everything. What makes Janice's story particularly sad is that she's admitted to regretting the surgeries. She's been one of the first celebrities to openly acknowledge that she way overdid it, that she did too many procedures too quickly, and that she should have listened to the doctors who told her to slow down. But by then, it was too late.
Game boy, 25 years old. I mean, and
4. Linda Evangelista. Linda Evangelista was the original supermodel, the face that defined the 1990s runway. She earned millions, graced the covers of every major magazine, and had a career that most models could only dream about. But in September 2021, Evangelista posted a lengthy statement on Instagram that shocked the entire fashion world. She admitted that she'd been brutally disfigured by a cosmetic procedure called cool sculpting and hadn't been seen publicly for years because of it. Here's what happened. Cool sculpting is a non-invasive procedure that uses cold temperatures to reduce fat cells. It's supposed to be safe, FDA approved, and reversible. But Evangelista experienced what doctors call paradoxical hyperplasia, where the fat cells multiply instead of shrinking. Her face swelled in strange places, creating lumps and bulges that made her unrecognizable. The procedure that was supposed to sculpt her face actually destroyed it. She described the experience as sending her into a cycle of profound sadness and self-loathing. She became reclusive, unable to work, unable to face cameras. A woman whose entire career was built on her face lost her face to a procedure that was supposed to improve it. What's especially infuriating is that Evangelista was told the procedure was rare in its complications. Cool sculpting clinics didn't warn her about the risks. She's since sued the manufacturer and won a major settlement. But no amount of money can give her back the years she lost hiding from the world.
Down here. You cut yourself? Dog bit me.
5. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was a devastatingly handsome leading man in the 1980s. He had that rugged, rough-around-the-edges appeal that made him stand out in films like Body Heat and Year of the Dragon. But before he was an actor, Rourke was a professional boxer. And boxing, as anyone who's watched the sport knows, is absolutely brutal on the face. Rourke took serious damage in the ring, broken nose, fractured cheekbones, scarring that threatened to permanently damage his appearance. So he turned to plastic surgery to fix the damage. This is where it gets tragic. The cosmetic surgeons he saw made things worse, not better. Multiple procedures were performed, trying to repair damage that previous surgeries had caused. The results were catastrophic. Rourke's once handsome face became puffy, distorted, and almost unrecognizable. His nose looks completely reconstructed. His cheeks are unnaturally swollen, and his overall appearance is haunting. What makes this particularly devastating is that we have photos spanning decades that show his progressive transformation. Early 1980s, Rourke was gorgeous. By 2010, he looked like a different person entirely. Rourke has admitted that he regrets the surgeries and that he probably should have left his face alone and accepted the boxing scars as battle wounds. Instead, he traded one kind of damage for another. The most recent photos of him show slight improvement, suggesting he's finally stopped going under the knife. But the damage is permanent. He spent his comeback years looking nothing like the actor who defined the 1980s.
And I am confused to Merle.
6. Donatella Versace. Donatella Versace is a fashion icon and one of the most powerful women in the luxury industry. She took over the Versace empire after her brother's death and built it into a global powerhouse. She should be celebrated for her business acumen and design genius. Instead, she's become infamous for her extremely overdone facial cosmetic work. 30 years ago, Donatella had naturally full lips and smooth skin. She was an attractive woman with strong features that commanded respect. But somewhere around the 2000s, she became obsessed with fighting age. She started with Botox, which gave her that frozen, expressionless look that became increasingly exaggerated over the years. Then came the filler, tons of it, injected into her cheeks and lips until her face looked swollen and unnatural. She underwent facelifts and brow lifts that pulled her skin so tight that her eyelids became droopy and uneven. Plastic surgeon Dr. David Rappaport analyzed her face publicly and pointed out visible facelift scars near her temples and an unnaturally high hairline that suggested extensive surgical intervention. The overall effect is that Donatella looks like a real-life human waxwork doll, frozen in an expression that she can't quite control. What's particularly tragic is that Donatella is incredibly talented and brilliant. She doesn't need cosmetic surgery to be impressive, but the procedures have become so extreme that they're all anyone talks about. Instagram is flooded with before and after comparisons, people questioning what she's done to herself, and critics wondering why she doesn't stop. Fashion insiders whisper that the procedures have affected her confidence rather than boosted it.
My life, truly. If anything, I left because...
7. Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley's story is less about vanity and more about becoming a victim of medical fraud. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Priscilla sought out cosmetic procedures to maintain her appearance. But the surgeon she chose, Dr. Daniel Saracen, was a nightmare waiting to happen. Saracen wasn't even licensed to practice medicine in the United States. Yet somehow, he was injecting celebrities and wealthy clients with low-grade industrial silicone, the kind used in motors and machinery. Think about that for a second. Priscilla had motor oil injected into her face. The results were horrifying. The silicone wasn't biocompatible with human tissue, so her body began rejecting it. She developed lumps, paralysis in certain facial muscles, and actual holes formed in her face where the silicone was causing tissue death. Saracen's victims reported similar horror stories. Drooping eyelids that wouldn't close, lips that moved independently, scars that never healed properly. The FDA eventually investigated and discovered that Saracen had been operating in an illegal practice for years, defrauding vulnerable women who trusted him with their faces. He was arrested, convicted, and deported back to Argentina after serving time in federal prison. Priscilla never had the silicone fully removed because she was terrified that attempting to fix it would cause more damage. She spent decades living with the consequences of one bad decision, looking in the mirror at a face that was partially paralyzed and scarred by a criminal surgeon. Her story is a cautionary tale about the importance of proper credentials and the dangers of seeking out underground cosmetic procedures.
Oh, stupid hoe. You must be a stupid hoe.
8. Lil Kim. Lil Kim burst onto the hip-hop scene in the 1990s as part of Junior MAFIA, absolutely dominating the charts and earning respect as an artist in an industry dominated by men. She was confident, sexy, and unapologetically herself. She had a strong presence and powerful image. But her relationship with her body and face would become complicated by insecurity and external criticism. In 2005, Lil Kim went on a radio show and admitted something that shocked people. She had broken her nose after an altercation with an ex-boyfriend and had to get rhinoplasty to fix it. But then, there was another incident, another injury, and suddenly she found herself going back repeatedly for corrective surgeries. Each procedure was supposed to fix the last one, but they kept creating new problems. What started as reconstruction became enhancement, and what was meant to address injuries became about reshaping her entire identity. Lil Kim underwent multiple nose jobs, cheek implants, and lip injections. The transformation was significant. Her face changed dramatically, and tabloids obsessed over before and after comparisons. Critics questioned why she felt the need to alter such a distinctive face. But here's the thing about Lil Kim that's different from other celebrities on this list. She's been relatively honest about it. She's admitted to the surgeries. She's discussed her insecurities openly. And she's acknowledged that the pressures of the entertainment industry played a role in her decisions. She's also pointed out that when you're constantly compared to European beauty standards with long hair and light skin, it messes with your mind. She's not pretending she was born with her current face. And she's not pretending the surgeries were purely about aesthetics. She's human. She made choices based on insecurities, and she's owned it.
Got woken up because, you know how, like, I'm kind of...
9. Khloe Kardashian. The Kardashian family has basically become a case study in cosmetic procedures. Every family member has admitted to various cosmetic work, but Khloe Kardashian's transformation is particularly notable because she's been more open about it than her siblings. While her sisters have been coy about their procedures, Khloe has actually discussed her surgeries in interviews and on reality TV. She's admitted to at least one nose job, extensive filler work, and various other procedures. What's interesting about Khloe's case is that her face has changed so dramatically that paparazzi photos and Instagram posts often look completely different from each other, suggesting either extreme contour and makeup skills or ongoing procedures. She's gotten so much filler that at one point she had it dissolved 3 times, and her face still looks puffy from the residual effects. Keeping Up with the Kardashians episodes from 2005 show a completely different Khloe than what we see today. Her face is wider, her lips are fuller, her cheekbones are more sculpted. She's also dealt with significant weight fluctuations, adding 30 to 40 pounds and then losing it again, which further changes facial appearance and necessitates procedures to keep up. What's fascinating about Khloe's transformation is that she's been incredibly honest about it in interviews. She's discussed her insecurities, her reasons for the procedures, and her own observations about what works and what doesn't. She's not pretending to be naturally flawless like some celebrities do. She's essentially saying, yes, I've had work done. Yes, I'm insecure. Yes, I'm trying to maintain my image. That honesty is refreshing, even if the results are sometimes extreme.
Jokes, and he knew this particular joke. And you mentioned a can earlier, which...
10. Carrot Top. Carrot Top is one of the most successful comedians of the last 20 years, known for his prop comedy and outrageous persona. He's made millions performing in Las Vegas and touring constantly. But his appearance has changed so dramatically that plastic surgery rumors have literally overshadowed his entire career. What the problem is that Carrot Top denies everything. He insists he's never had cosmetic surgery, that the changes in his appearance are purely due to aging, lighting, makeup, and the effects of bodybuilding. But plastic surgeons who've analyzed his photos publicly disagree. Dr. Anthony Yun stated that Carrot Top has clearly had laser treatments and chemical peels, and possibly more extensive work than he's admitting. His face looks completely different than it did in the 1990s. His skin texture changed, his nose looks refined, and his overall appearance is dramatically different. The comedian looks more like a muscle-bound cartoon character than a human being, according to one critic. What's particularly frustrating about the Carrot Top situation is the denial. If he just admitted to some procedures, the conversation would move on. But his insistence that nothing has changed while evidence clearly shows significant transformation makes the whole thing more absurd. His facial changes can be partially attributed to his extreme fitness regimen and the use of anabolic steroids, which do affect facial appearance and skin texture. Combining those lifestyle factors with potential cosmetic procedures creates a compounded effect. Carrot Top's story is less about a surgical disaster and more about a celebrity refusing to acknowledge obvious changes to his appearance.
Nothing. What I am is very brilliant. I have
11. Merle Oberon. Merle Oberon was an incredibly beautiful actress who starred in classic films like Wuthering Heights and The Dark Angel. She had porcelain skin, aristocratic features, and a presence that commanded respect. But her beauty came with a dark secret that she spent her entire life hiding. Born in India to a mixed-race family, Oberon lived in constant fear that her heritage would destroy her career in racist Hollywood. So she reinvented herself completely, claiming to be from Tasmania and bleaching her skin to fit the European beauty standard of the era. In 1937, she was in a horrific car crash that nearly destroyed her face. She suffered severe facial injuries that left her with visible scars threatening to end her career entirely. She underwent multiple reconstructive surgeries, followed by rounds of dermabrasion treatments. The procedures were agonizing, designed to resurface her damaged skin and minimize scarring. But the results were imperfect. Her face remained pitted and uneven, especially under harsh lighting. This is where her story gets remarkable. Her cinematographer husband, Lucien Ballard, basically invented a specialized lighting technique called the OB light, a custom spotlight that bathed her face in flattering diffuse glow, erasing imperfections on film. This technique became a Hollywood standard, but it started as a cover-up for Merle's hidden injuries. She continued having facelifts throughout her life, and by her later years, her face had become increasingly tight and immobile. But the surgeries weren't just about fighting age. They were about maintaining a fiction. She wasn't just fighting aging, she was fighting the truth of her identity. Merle's tragedy is uniquely heartbreaking because she was running from multiple demons simultaneously.
I read all about it. Well, if it is Margaret...
12. Bette Davis. Bette Davis had some of the most iconic eyes in cinema history. Those intense, yet expressive, piercing eyes became so legendary that they inspired the phrase, Bette Davis eyes. But here's the thing that hardly anyone talks about. Davis actually had cosmetic surgery to enhance those famous eyes. She underwent blepharoplasty, a surgical procedure to lift her upper eyelids, because she was experiencing vision problems. Her sagging eyelids were interfering with her ability to see, which became a practical issue on set when she couldn't see the clock in the makeup room. So she had the surgery performed to correct the functional issue. But the procedure also had aesthetic benefits, helping to keep her signature look intact as she aged. Over her career, Davis also underwent work on her chin and neck, using cosmetic procedures to fight against the inevitable signs of aging. What's interesting about Bette Davis's surgeries is that they were relatively subtle. She didn't go overboard with filler or multiple facelifts. The procedures enhanced her existing features rather than dramatically altering them. She maintained her distinctive appearance while fighting the natural aging process. Her story is different from the others on this list because her surgeries were more successful and less extreme. She managed to age relatively gracefully while still participating in cosmetic enhancement. The lessons from her story are about moderation and working with a surgeon who understands your existing features, rather than trying to completely remake your face.
This vacuum I'm living in.
13. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was the epitome of 1940s Hollywood glamour. With her flaming red hair, soft voice, and sultry dance moves, she absolutely dominated the screen in films like Gilda and CoverGirl. She was one of the biggest stars of her era, but getting there required extreme measures. Rita was born with a naturally high hairline that Hollywood producers thought was unattractive. So in the name of beauty standards, she endured electrolysis, an incredibly painful procedure that removes hair one follicle at a time using electric current. She had this procedure done repeatedly across her hairline to make her forehead appear smaller and her face appear more conventionally beautiful. The electrolysis was time-consuming, exhausting, and absolutely brutal. It took a full year of continuous treatments, but it worked. On top of that, Rita changed her natural dark brown hair to the signature red shade that became part of her brand. She had to re-dye it every few days to maintain the color, which itself caused damage to her hair and scalp. The overall transformation was brutal, but effective. Rita Hayworth became one of the biggest stars of her time. But the pressure to maintain that perfection was constant and relentless. She later said in interviews that the producers essentially stole her identity, that they went and took her hairline and her sense of self in the process of turning her into a star. Her biography describes how deeply these procedures affected her self-image and mental health.
Working, how we can stop them. Most of our agents aren't equipped.
14. Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper was the definition of masculine grace and Western cinema charm. With his stoic expressions and quiet charisma, he dominated the screen in classics like High Noon and Sergeant York. He was the strong, silent type, but the kind of actor who could own a scene without saying much. But as he got older, wrinkles started appearing and his fear of becoming irrelevant grew. In 1958, Gary Cooper quietly checked into the Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital. The official story was that he was there for scar removal and treatment for an old cyst. But the actual reason was far more dramatic. He underwent a complete facelift performed by one of the leading plastic surgeons in the country, Dr. John Converse. The procedure was ambitious. It involved tightening skin around his jawline, lifting his cheeks, and smoothing out the tired lines of age. When he reappeared in public, fans were genuinely shocked. He looked different, not younger necessarily, just oddly unfamiliar. The media whispered about what had happened, but Cooper and his team denied everything publicly. His daughter Maria later confirmed what many suspected. There had been enormous pressure to maintain a perfect image. She reflected on how the illusion of Hollywood perfection didn't leave room for aging naturally. What makes Cooper's story interesting is that the surgery didn't ruin his career, but it did shift something fundamental. Cooper had always seemed authentic, rugged, real. The new face, tighter and more polished, felt like a mask that didn't quite fit.
Really care what people say about you. You have just to...
15. Jocelyn Wildenstein. Jocelyn Wildenstein isn't a traditional movie star, but her cosmetic surgery transformation earned her a permanent place in Hollywood legend and tabloid infamy. Her story is one of extreme excess and a controversial vision of beauty unlike anything else in this list. She married billionaire art dealer Alec Wildenstein, and early in their marriage, they both underwent cosmetic eye lifts to refresh their appearance. But what started as a shared vanity quickly spiraled into an obsession. Jocelyn became fixated on the idea of having feline features. She wanted cat eyes. "The lynx has perfect eyes," she once said. "That's what I wanted." Over the years, she pursued procedure after procedure. Her cheekbones were reshaped, her lips were plumped, her eyes were pulled back repeatedly in an attempt to capture the cat-like look she desired. Her appearance changed so dramatically that tabloids dubbed her Catwoman, a nickname she rejected but could never escape. She denied having extensive work done, insisting that aging was to blame. "I think I was prettier before," she told reporters, "but I still have the same eyes, the same nose." Her ex-husband completely disagreed. During their divorce proceedings, Alec Wildenstein remarked bitterly that Jocelyn thought she could fix her face like a piece of furniture. "That skin doesn't work that way." The transformation wasn't driven by career demands or public pressure. It was deeply personal, rooted in a dream of becoming something other than human, something more feline. But in chasing that dream, she became a cautionary tale of what happens when the pursuit of beauty loses all restraint. So there you have it, 15 celebrities who tried to fight time and ended up fighting themselves instead. The wild part? Some of them achieved their goals temporarily, but most of them just created new problems while trying to solve old ones. Here's my question for you in the comments. If you could turn back time and warn any of these celebrities before they went under the knife, who would it be, and what would you tell them? And more importantly, what does it say about our society that we've created a culture where looking your age is considered a failure? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe, and let me know which celebrity transformation shocked you the most. Because at the end of the day, these aren't just plastic surgery stories. They're stories about pressure, insecurity, and the impossible standards we've created.